Hi guys, my name is Ishan Mahajan and welcome to our podcast channel BookSummary with Ishan, where we aim to provide a summarized view of some of the life-changing books under 30 minutes. Do check out the website for notes and other episodes, link in description. Today, I'm going to summarize about a book that will fill you with motivation. The book that I'm talking about is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. In Can't Hurt Me, Corgins show the path everyone can take to push boundaries, remove fear, and live their life to the fullest. For Goggins, childhood was far from innocent and easy to play outside. Instead, he experienced trauma at the hands of his abusive father and extreme prejudice and poverty in the American countryside. Statistically, Goggins was destined to live a life of depression and poverty without going anywhere. But he went against all odds through self-discipline and toughness and hard work. He was no longer a depressed and overweight young man and had no future. By focusing on his weight loss and increasing his test scores, Goggins has become an icon of the US family. Today, he is one of the best endurance athletes in the world. He is the only man in the history to complete the training for elite Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Air Force Tactical Air Traffic Controllers. But he didn't stop there. Goggins set a world record for extreme endurance sports and was named America's most fittest man. Now moving to the introduction about the author. David Goggins is a retired Navy SEAL and is the only member of the US Armed Forces to complete SEAL training, the US Army Rangers School and Air Force Tactical Air Controller training. An accomplished endurance athlete, Goggins has completed over 60 ultramarathons, triathlons, and ultra triathlons. He once held the Guinness World Record for pull-ups, completing 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours. Now, let's talk about Goggins' violent father. Goggins was born in New York in 1975. He didn't have a typical carefree childhood. Goggins was dominated by his abusive father instead of playing outside with his friends. His father, toughness, was his homebrew businessman who owned a nightclub. Instead of hiring paid workers, toughness forced his family to work every night. Goggins was already working on the rink when he was 6. Even at that age, his father forced him to work until midnight. Instead of taking him home, toughness often put him to sleep in the office. However, the disco was noisy and remained open until early morning, so Goggins could hardly sleep at night. In addition to the forced labor, Goggins' father was very violent. Goggins and his mother were victims of domestic violence, often for the smallest things. For example, Goggins once had a nasty ear infection. His affectionate mother took him to the hospital, but toughness hated family spending money even when the children were ill. Upon returning, Goggins saw his father hit his mother with a belt. When he intervened, his father also beat him. He had to go to the school and hide the bruise he had suffered. Now let's talk about the racism that Goggins faced from a young age. At the age of 8, Goggins' mother decided that she had enough. She took David and escaped to Indiana, in which they commenced their new lives together. But as he might quickly locate out, he and his mom had walked into the middle of a racist part of rural America. He was the only black kid in the town, and he quickly have become the goal of hatred. He often heard the N-word directed closer to him. On pinnacle of that, he had weapons waved in his face, basically because of his pores and skin color. Now, coping with bullying and poverty, his existence didn't appear like getting any better. To make things worse, Goggins started out experiencing the stressful consequences of his early years. After the struggling he got from his father, he advanced a fearful slutter. Plus, his hair commenced to fall out and patches of his pores and skin became an exclusive color. As an adult, David identified he got affected by toxic stress. This is a condition in which young children who have undergone severe abuse experience permanent fight or flight. So now, what is the inspiration that Goggins found? David Goggins remained unhappy throughout his high school days, but the day after he met an Air Force recruiter, everything changed. He immediately impressed David when he told him that his recruiter was a para-rescue diver who jumped in to rescue a pilot who went down. By spending time with the recruiter, he joined the Air Force, but it was just a dream. David believed that he did not have the talent and the training that Air Force needed. In particular, David wondered if he could pass through a difficult military occupational capability battery, ASVAB. So the things that included in the exam were journal science, arithmetic reasoning, word knowledge, paragraph comprehension, mathematics knowledge, electronics information, auto and shop information, mechanical comprehension, assembling objects. David may have doubted his potential, but because of his dream, he started at himself for a long time. He decided to change completely. He shaved his head, changed his style, and wrote down all the goals he needed to pass the ASVAB. Goggins pasted these goals into his mirror called accounting mirror. These goals helped him take responsibility for himself by reminding him of his goals every day. Now the question is, what is accountability mirror and how it can help motivate you? The accounting mirror played an important role in creating a man who would become Goggins. He made it a habit to stand in front of the accounting mirror every day. This action reminded him of what he needed to do to complete his mission. Goggins had a difficult start in his life, but he knew he could change his future. Eventually, Goggins passed ASVAB and one step closer to joining the army. Goggins was on the verge of joining the army, but there was one major obstacle he had to overcome. He hadn't seen the pool until he was 12, and he was always afraid of water. Because of this horror paralyzed him, and Goggins struggled to complete one of his military swimming challenges. Despite his struggle with swimming, it will eventually be medical examination that ends Goggins' dream of joining the army. Tests revealed that he had sickle cell anemia. Goggins admits that he used this as a reason to leave the army because he didn't want to return to the water. Time to change things. Goggins regressed after his military training. He began working overnight in Indian police as a pest control technician, and his health deteriorated. At one point, David Goggins weighed 300 pounds. Again, Goggins reached the moment he realized he had to change. At 4 a.m. one night, Goggins sprayed a cockroach nest occupying a filthy restaurant, but he was swarming with hundreds of cockroaches. After running away and beating insects from his body for a few minutes, Goggins began to wonder where he ended up in his life. He was doing a terrible job at a terrible time and was terribly overweight. In addition, he realized that he had no vision for his future. After that shift, Goggins came across a television documentary that would change his life. This documentary covered the life of a Navy SEAL and how they were the deadliest combat force. He saw the SEALs suffering from mud, sweat, and tears. He was amazed at their spiritual strength and determination. Before the show was over, Goggins was on the phone. He contacted all the SEAL recruiters in the country and tried to participate in the training. But making a change took huge commitment. Goggins was knocked back when he learned the upcoming cohorts training program would be closing in 3 months. At the time, he was 107 pounds heavier than the Navy SEALs allowed. If he wanted to join the SEALs, he would have to lose more than a pound per day for 90 days. But instead of giving up, Goggins took on the challenge. He woke up every morning at 4:30 a.m. and would ride on his exercise bike for 2 hours. Then he would drive to his nearest swimming pool and swim for another 2 hours. As you can imagine, it took true bravery to overcome his fear of water. Goggins would head to the gym for circuit training that included at least 5 sets of 200 reps for all the major muscle groups. He would then go on the exercise bike, then have his dinner, and then jump back on his exercise bike. This training regime, coupled him with new accountability mirror, helped him to lose the required weight in the time for the program. He joined the SEALs Bud 6-month training program where only 30 of the toughest 120 candidates would become a Navy SEAL. After months of impossibly hard physical and mental challenges, Goggins successfully became a Navy SEAL on his 3rd and final attempt. Pushing the limits, after successfully completed the incredibly difficult SEAL training, Goggins longed for more challenges. He had to find a way to keep pushing himself. In 2005, Goggins found the answer in the form of long-distance running. Goggins woke up one morning and started his first long-distance run. He didn't stop the morning until he ran 100 miles. Many of us couldn't imagine walking that far. Goggins knew from the Navy SEAL training that your mind was the biggest obstacle to these incredibly physical feats. Goggins became interested in running ideas for ultra marathons. His first sporting hobby was to raise money for the family of Navy SEAL who was killed in a military operation in Afghanistan. Goggins did not downplay this run. Instead, he chose Badwater 135, the toughest run in the world. His training lasted only 20 minutes a week on the gym's machine. He has never run more than 26 miles in a marathon. As a result, Goggins didn't look closely at the 70 miles point. By this time, he had lost control of his bladder and bowel movements from complete fatigue. He had diplopia and was walking with a broken leg. However, Goggins managed to finish the race by remembering the 40% rule. What is 40% rule? In Goggins' situation, most individuals would have given up. However, if you are having trouble finishing an exercise, he suggests remembering that you almost probably still have 60% to give. We humans have a tendency to quit up after spending 40% of our utmost effort. For example, you might believe that the most miles you can run right now is 4. The maximum range will be closer to 10 miles in reality. That's why, despite having only 26 miles before, Goggins believed 100 miles was achievable. He had only ever put 40% of his effort. Goggins advises that you keep going even though you feel like you have given everything you have got. He believes that by pushing through this point, you will grow and break down the limitations and hurdles that are preventing you from reaching your full potential. Goggins finished the event in less than 19 hours. He even raced an extra mile to ensure he had completed the race. This earned him as a sport in Badwater 135 Ultra Marathon in 2006. This time he'd be running through Death Valley in California, finishing at a height of 8,374 feet. This race takes place in July when the weather is the part of the world is at warmest. Goggins prepared for the marathon by analyzing the terrain and jogging in the harsh circumstances he would face on the race day. Goggins finished in 5th place after completing Badwater 135 in less than 30 hours. He was able to stretch his limits and achieve something remarkable thanks to the 40% guideline. Become uncommon amongst uncommon. Goggins was inspired to complete more events after completing the Badwater 135. He would sign up for many ultra running races each month. Goggins was thrown a curveball as he had been in many facets of his life. Goggins noted an abnormal heart rate during one of his races. A trip to the hospital revealed that he had a hole in his heart, which he would have to live with for the rest of his life. This is a dangerous condition that deprives the body of oxygen and can result in death. Goggins had been training as a Navy SEAL for the past decade, pushing his body through the most extreme condition. Thankfully, his condition had not resulted in his death. David Goggins emphasizes the necessity of being able to respond effectively to life's curveballs. Despite his obstacles, Goggins became one of the only 36 African Americans to join the Navy SEALs. At the time, he was one of the few African American ultra runners. This voyage, according to Goggins, was about him being uncommon against uncommon. He'd risen to the top of the heap. However, as Goggins discovered his abnormal heartbeat, he needed to find another means to push himself. The next challenge would set a world record for him. Goggins read about a world record for the most pull-ups in 24 period. At the time, the record was 4,021, which meant he had to do 5 pull-ups each minute for more than 12 hours. The key takeaway here is that you should find your way of becoming uncommon. For example, being the first person in your family to go to college. Then become uncommon against uncommon by excelling in this uncommon position. Callous your mind by experiencing pain. Our culture has become hooked on quick fixes and life hacks. Although these hacks might occasionally bring success, they will limit your self-mastery. So if you want to master your mind, you have to become addicted to hard work. Passion, obsession, and talent are only useful if you have the work ethic to back them up. Goggins suggests that callousing your mind involves intentionally exposing yourself to discomfort and pain. Instead of settling for less than your belts, Goggins recommends finding ways to callous your mind to get the hard but rewarding work done. Stop making excuses for yourself. After childhood, Goggins was doomed to a life of despair, chronic pain, and PTSD. Despite this, He was able to overcome these challenges by working hard and dedicating himself to his objectives. Goggins began his career as a morbidly obese cockroach exterminator who couldn't read. He woke up early, worked hard to lose weight, learned a lot of things, and eventually became a Navy SEAL. You must quit creating excuses for yourself, according to Goggins. Having a family to care for, a hard job is a fact of life, not an excuse. Moving to, the morning is the best crucial part of the day. Goggins describes the morning as the most crucial part of the day. If you can win the morning, then you can win the day. Typically, Goggins will get up at 4 a.m., then he goes on 6 to 10 mile run. He usually gets back from his run at 5:15 a.m., will shower, eat breakfast, and get ready for work. Goggins cycles 25 miles to work, arrives at a desk by 7:30 a.m. During his lunch break, Goggins will either have a gym session or go for another 6-mile run on the beach. Then he cycles back home after work. Each day without fail, Goggins will have cycled 15 miles, run 10 miles, and worked a 9 to 5 job. This routine shows that you can always find time to make positive habits as a part of your routine. In addition to working hard at getting things done, Goggins recommends going above and above. Instead of abandoning long distance running once you have completed a marathon, you should be planning your next achievement. Run another marathon, for example, and see how much faster you can become. You will stop moving forward if you grow happy with your achievements. I hope you guys like the Can't Hurt Me book summary. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Stay tuned and we'll be right back with another episode.